over here. We don't live in fear. We gon' be okay. The Lord always make a way. God over everything over here. We don't live in fear. We gon' be okay. The Lord always make a way.
God over everything over here. You know we don't live in fear. Faith all day, faith all day. It's the Lord that made a way. He gave us another day, another chance, another dance. It's time to give him the praise, cause it's the Lord that made the way. Every single day, gotta give him praise. If you don't, you might lose the blessings that came.
God over everything, over here. We don't live in fear. We gon' be okay. The Lord always make a way. God over everything, over here. We don't live in fear. We gon' be okay. The Lord always make a way. God over everything, over here. We don't live in fear. We gon' be okay. The Lord always make a way.
I think of all his goodness and all he's done for me and how he set me free. Oh, oh, oh. I just wanna thank the Lord. He always showed he cared. He always was right, yeah. Good decisions, bad decisions, he was right there. Ups and downs, he was right there. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I have the grace to go through it. The mercy to make it. I have the courage to believe it, and I have the faith to receive it. It's already done, it's all finished, and the joy of the Lord is my strength till I see it come to pass. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Nothing but grace and mercy shall follow me all the go my way. I had to learn the hard way that it won't go my way. So I depend on him, cause it always works when he's in it. Only when he's in it, yeah. I just wanna love like the way he loved me. I just wanna trust like the way he trusts me. I just want the peace like the way he gives peace. I depend on the Lord, now I depend on the Lord. Sometimes things don't go the way that I'm playing. I guess sometimes things can get out of hand. I guess sometimes things be out my control. That's why I depend on the Lord, depend on the Lord. Sometimes things don't go the way that I'm playing. I guess sometimes.
Good evening, kingdom blessings to you all on today. We want to welcome you to Liquid Fire, Love on Fire, Marriage and Relationship Ministry on today. Of course, I'm Dr. Sharice Lewis, and we have here, amen, a very dear couple to me, amen, amen, the Irvings, glory to God. And we thank God for them on today. I want you to know that it's not just by chance that you're on today. We're going to be on the entire week, the entire 7 days. That's right. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to be delivered, you're going to be healed, you're going to be released, you're going to be set free. There will be an innovative, creative anointing over your marriage, and those of us who are preparing for marriage, we're going to receive impartation that will posture us in a position to receive, amen, the blessings that God is going to bring in our life by way of a spouse. Amen. And so I am excited here, amen, with Prophet Blaine, amen, and Ide Irving, glory to God. And so we're just going to get right into it. We're going to have a word of prayer, and there will be a moment, amen, where you can ask questions, and you can, amen, and we'll read off what you may be saying, amen, to be a part of what we're doing on tonight. Amen. So, Father, we give you praise. We thank you for the power of the Holy Ghost. We thank you for healing in marriage and relationship on tonight, Lord God. We thank you, Lord God, for the love on fire anointing to blaze up, to rekindle, oh God, those dead places, those dry places in the marriage. And we thank you for wisdom on tonight that shall be downloaded, Lord God, in the hearts and minds of the people of God. And we honor you on this night, Father God, that everything that is spoken, you shall receive all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. Amen. And we give you the praise right now in Jesus' name. Amen. I am excited. Amen. For each and every one of you who are on, and to our ambassadors, we would like for you to continue to share, amen, on all your platforms. Amen. Because we need to bring honor and restoration to the marriage covenant. Amen. And so that's where we're going on tonight. We want to start off, amen. We're going to ask the Irvings, amen, some questions. Why don't you tell us, how did you all meet? Give us a little, all the viewers on tonight that's watching.
A long time ago. And the first time we met because he came to the church that I was going to at that time to minister for the first time ever. Um, and when he ministered, he kept on. There was a testimony that he shared that kind of impacted my life at that time and that season that I was at. But we never really connected at that time. It was more so until when he it was around a year after that, or a few months after that.
A few months. It was less than a year.
Okay, yeah. So it was less than a year after that. We ended up meeting again, and this time it was in a way where we would be spending every day together, right?
Yes.
And when we spent together every day, we got to know each other. We got to really talk and kind of really just establish a friendship.
Yeah.
And then as we were establishing this friendship, it kind of just was that. It was just a friendship, and then from there, he started to have feelings for me. I didn't have feelings
That's
for him.
not okay, maybe that's the
So
truth.
he started to have feelings for me, and I could tell because the people around me would always bring up, well, what do you think about Blaine? Do you think you guys can be together, or so on and so forth? And did you notice how Blaine was talking to you, or just stuff like that to pick on things for me to notice? And it was never something that in my head, it just wasn't it, because I had an image of what I wanted in my spouse. Physically, I had this idea in my head of what I wanted, and he was not all what I wanted. And it was the same thing, right, for you?
Yeah, you know, I'm always brutally honest and say, you know, Dave wanted a chocolate man. I'm very not chocolate. And I was looking for, you know, just, physically speaking, I was looking for, you know, a short, cute, blonde, white girl with a bubble butt. And Day is not short, she's not blonde, and she definitely doesn't have a bubble butt. And so I had this image in my mind of what I thought would work for me. And so when the Lord presented her initially, I was like, okay, go ahead, present her what you want. I'm sure that's not it. But as sort of as time progressed, because, you know, we actually sort of walked into this friendship from a ministry standpoint initially. You know, for me, you know, the first time I got in her car, I noticed, and it was the back right seat of her car, I noticed, oh, wait a minute, she prays in her car. And I remember saying to her, I said, you pray in your car. And she was, you know, sort of all excited. Like, oh, you noticed. But that's kind of where it's, you know, left off for me. I was like, okay, well, you know, thank you for the ride. And I'll see you later type of thing. You know, it wasn't, what I was believing for was not this. That was so I thought. But, you know, as hopefully we'll get to answer the questions as we go. It's actually quite interesting how when God picks someone for you, it's exactly what you need. You may not know it immediately,
Yes.
but later on, as I so later discovered, it turned out that this is exactly what I needed. Was she was strong enough to sort of handle the attacks that came upon my life, which I know, you know, had I picked some of the other choices in my mind, I either would be dead or the marriage would have been over.
I think that is so crucial. You touched upon something. How we have in our minds what our idea of a mate, and sometimes that's the look. And so you touching upon being able to move, to shift from the natural vision into a spiritual vision. And so I believe that's so important that we have someone who has the capacity to go the distance with us, with the mandate that God has placed on our lives. And many times when we're in our flesh, when we're looking in the natural realm, that person may not be packaged, may not have the ability to endure and so that's why it's so important that we have Christ in the center of our relationships, because many times people pick, they choose someone and they haven't sought the Lord.
so important because even when we were friends, I actually loved him. Even when we were friends, I had a pure love for him. And I knew that us being friends was, even if we were friends, and just like the way he was, his character, his integrity, and who he was as a person always intrigued me because he was so different from everybody else. He was so different from everybody else. He didn't talk like everybody else. He didn't think the way everybody else thought. He was very different, and it always intrigued me. So even when we were friends, I knew that I cared for him. I knew that I loved him. And even when it was an easier process in our marriage because we were both expecting such different people physically, but our friendship is really what made it an easier process into transitioning from friendship to marriage because we were only friends for 1 year. We weren't friends for a very long time. It was literally 1 year we were friends. All of a sudden we were spouses, and it kind of all just transitioned very quickly. And then even when we were spouses, then we were parents. So it was like our friendship was not just God being the foundation, but the friendship was also a part of our foundation of our marriage. And even if we, disagree on things, even if we don't come in agreement with certain things, we know who we are as friends, and we wouldn't jeopardize anything to ruin this friendship because we genuinely do have love for each other. It's not just, oh, I married this man and now we're here stuck for the rest of our lives type of thing.
So one of the things I feel like that really helped us, our relationship kind of started off really sort of, in most people's minds, backwards. Sometimes, a lot of the time when we think of, even just a girlfriend or a boyfriend or someone like that, it starts off where you sort of have this physical attraction. And, as a man, or maybe, I don't know, maybe women do this too, I'm not entirely sure, but, you sort of work hard to impress that person. But we didn't have any of that because we didn't walk into a friendship or into a relationship with the idea of I needed to impress her or, I need this. And in fact, it's quite the opposite, really. I then got to see me at my lowest. She got to see when I was broke. She got to see when I didn't have a car. She got to see when I was living in a hotel. As a matter of fact, they drove me to the hotel that I was living in. And so, there was never that part of having to, let me, girl, come on, let me impress you real quick. Let me show you who I am. We didn't get all that. We really just got to, she got to see the rawness of who I am. She got to see me at the end of my day when I was frustrated and leaving work and, God, I can't do this anymore. But she got to see all that ahead of time. So she already saw my worst, which I think, to me, actually is a great blessing. She got to see my struggles ahead of time. And she got to have compassion for the things that I already endured before she came along. And maybe in some cases that sort of taught her, or God moved her in a way to be able to intercede for me and pray for me and war for me. Because I really needed it later on.
Yes. So I agree that being able to see someone when you're going through an attack, going through a trial, how do they handle their anger? And these are some of the things we talk about in premarital counseling. And so covenant, because a covenant is not 50%, but it's 100%. Amen. And so the marital covenant in this day face so much opposition. And you all are under 30, and you've been married how long now?
It's going to be 3 years.
3 years. 3 years complete. Amen. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced in this hour, being young and being married?
Being young and being married, I don't think necessarily it's been a challenge. I think it's been more so watching everybody else before us, and watching how divorce was such a big thing growing up, and kind of shifting our perspective. When we got married, I said divorce is not an option, and I genuinely meant that as
it's not an option.
Yeah, like it's not an option. Like I'm not in this because I go in this thinking to myself that eventually I might get rid of him if it doesn't work out. I didn't go into marriage with that mindset. I said, you're my husband, and if you're my husband, I'm in it all the way. That means we're both assigned to each other. That means we both have assignments over our lives. That means we have destiny, there's purpose within us. And I think being young in ministry has been more of a thing than being young and married.
All right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you would say you mature because when you first got married and you look at one another, and what ways have marriage matured? Because when we come in, I know there was a time when I was married, I wasn't that young. But I know that when you first come into marriage, there are things that happen in the marriage that requires maturity. It requires maturity.
Yes.
And how did you adjust? What are some of the areas that you would be transparent that you had to mature in and that you would share with other young couples that they need to mature?
Yes. So there's two things that definitely it caused us to really mature. One, our sex life. Our sex life was one of our biggest struggles in the beginning because I was dealing with past traumas, and it was a difficult thing for me. It wasn't that I didn't love him. It was more so of I still had inner traumas that I was dealing with that I didn't realize were going to really affect my marriage as much as it did. And a big part of our marriage is intimacy. So I had to really ask God and beg God to heal me, to be able to love him, because his love language is touch. I had to really mature and stop whining of him wanting to touch me, or stop whining of him wanting to be physical. But I had to be more understanding of where he was coming from and what his love language looked like. I had to ask God to teach me how to physically love him, to know how to bring him back to life, because I can't be the fullness of who I am in ministry if my household is not good first. And if my intimacy with my husband isn't good, then I'm not going to know how to love anybody else in my ministry. So then from there, the second thing that we had to mature in was prayer. I knew that prayer was going to be required, but I did not know how much prayer was going to be needed during this process. During our first year, we got married, we got pregnant, and then he came under attack, psychological warfare. And during that time, I had no option but to pray. And even though I felt like, at that time, it felt like, God, what did I get myself into? I didn't expect this to be so hard. I didn't expect marriage to be this way. I knew that things were going to happen and we were going to get through it, but I didn't expect it to be in this type of form. And even when I saw him be angry, even when I saw him going through anxiety and go through depression, it was like in those moments, I was on my knees begging God to heal him. I had to put myself in a position of putting him before myself and putting God and really making God the highlight of our marriage, and understanding that truly God is the center of our marriage. Without God, we really wouldn't be able to get through every single thing that we've gone through. But really, that moment really taught me how to pray for him, and it taught me that whatever comes our way, it really you just ask God to do it. Just ask God to do it, and he'll take care of it.
I like what you said, the transparency, because we're living in a perverted society, right? There's so many marriages that where spouses are being defrauded and deprived in sexual intimacy. And so I want to rewind. I want to go back to that because it's very important. I thank you for your transparency, because it's very important that people understand that when there has been violations in growing up in childhood, when there's been molestation, when there's been rape, all of these things can affect a person in love and intimacy in marriage. And so it's so important. I want you to speak to that because I believe there are some people watching on tonight, amen, who have been experiencing molestation, who have been raped, amen, and they love their spouse, but they're not sexual, have a high, sex drive. They don't want it. They don't want to be touched. They make up excuses and they walk in pride in that area because they refuse to deal with the root cause of the matter. And they make excuses. Let's talk about it.
So was that what you were saying? Because I think it's very important. But I feel like it's important we have the other side of this as well. So, as a husband, being what Ida has gone through in her life and the things that she had experienced, I, as a husband, had to learn two things. One, I had to learn to not be selfish. Yes, I want what I want. Yes, I need certain things, but I also, it pushed me to, and I can't say I've completely been delivered from being selfish, but it highlighted that area that got my attention to say that, listen, you're selfish and your wife needs you to be understanding. Your wife needs you to be able to pray for her. And then, in the beginning, it was, what am I praying for her for? I mean, this is pretty simplistic. But then it's going to God and saying, Lord, what is it do I need to pray about? What is the struggle here? And, there were some times where I would watch Ida, and any given day, she could go from, and it could be, within minutes, she could go from cool, like, I'm ready, let's go for this thing, to all of a sudden it's gone. And it was just, it's like this mental block that would come over her, displaying itself in a mental block, but there was really trauma that, I've been here before. The mind will lie to you and say you've been here before, type of thing. Now, whether that's what was being spoken to her in her ear, I don't know, but I could physically see on her face how it would shift. And just to be really, raw, and maybe women deal with this too. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. But when you're a male, when you get to a certain point, when you're that close, and then all of a sudden it's like it's a wrap. I'm done. Woo! Think about praying and think about not being frustrated. There was plenty of times that I was frustrated. There was plenty of times, where my wife felt like, oh, can you just be understanding? Why don't you get it? So I had to learn to be patient, and I had to learn to be less selfish, so I could get delivered from that, and I had to learn to be patient. And it's not that I didn't know that when we got married. I knew I would have to be patient, but to what lengths are you willing to go in order to be that patient? How much are you willing to minister to your wife? And it's not easy. That was not an easy walk in the slightest. And I think a part of that has to do with we all make some kind of level of this mistake, in that we have preconceived ideas of how things are going to work when you get married.
Yeah.
And you think, well, intimacy, everybody wants to smack all day long every day, but that really may not be your spouse's reality. So make sure you ask those type of things. Make sure that you pray so that you know what am I getting myself into. It doesn't mean back out of it and don't get married. It just means be prepared, have the readiness to know that when I get there, this is going to be one of my obstacles. And unfortunately, a lot of people that are married, Christian couples, we deal. The enemy wants to come in any which way he can to destroy a marriage, because it's something beautiful before God. It's a covenant. But at the same time, when you make a covenant with someone, you're making a promise to be or to do certain things, and you're making that promise based on things you do not know yet. And you will find out. That's why it is, even when you write contractual agreements, you're making a contract. Let's just say you're making a contract with somebody to pay something. You're making that agreement based off of the fact that you don't know if the money is going to be there to pay it. Something could change. So in a covenant marriage, you're making a covenant saying, listen, boo, honey, child, I'm going to be with you. My love, this is going to be good. We're going to fight through this thing. I'm going to stand there with you. But there's certain things that you don't know you're going to have to deal with. My wife did not know that despite as anointed as I am, despite as how much oil I carry, despite all the cool things that God promised, she did not know the physical warfare that I would have to endure and what she would have to do. She did not know that. but I think you came out shining brightly. Because honestly, I'm very actually impressed, and that's one of the things that let me know that I married the right woman. Is after coming out of all that, in the middle of it, I was like, "You suck. You're not praying for me. This is nasty. You mean. You're not licking my wounds with me." But when I started to come out of it on the other side, the Lord was like, "You know, she was praying for you the whole time, right?" I was like, "Huh? What do you mean she was praying for me the whole time? Who was watching whatever was on television?" He said, "She was praying for you. When you were laying on the couch in pain, she was praying for you."
This is so awesome. This is so awesome. Because when we're going through things, a person doesn't need a warrior. You need a prayer. You need a prayer. You don't need a warrior, but you need a prayer warrior.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's important, having that capacity to endure. And that's an element of faith. And so faith is crucial especially when it comes to kingdom marriages period. It's going to take faith to believe in something that you cannot see. You don't know what's ahead, but you're telling that person as you stand with that covenant, I'm with you. I'm going out for the long haul. When we stand before God, we say until death do us apart. Come on now. Amen. Well, it's a journey. And so it is predicated on how we view our belief system. And this is why it's so important that our lives be centered in God. Because there are going to be some obstacles that come, amen, that we didn't talk about. Sometimes there are things that happen in the bloodline. Amen. And it rises up. There are time release demons. We want to get over. We want to believe that we talk about it. But sometimes there are things that we don't even know. The person don't even know about until that time comes and it is released. So it's so important for you to have someone, amen, that you can develop and build trust with.
And I want to share something regarding the trauma. Is one of the biggest things that helped us was talking about it, where I had to be detailed of what I went through, of what happened, how did this happen, what did that person do to you, like being detailed so that he wouldn't make anything be a trigger. So it was kind of really of just communication, being specific, being open about what happened, every single detail, and then from there being able to pray from there as a marriage together, so that God can really come in and really extract those things that are really trying to stay rooted in that moment.
That's good. So I want to say, what do you think that hinders communication? What do you think that are some of the things that hinders? Because in the Love on Fire book, we do talk about marriage breaking spirits. And one of the things we talk about is that communication. When the communication is broken down. Have you ever went through a season where y'all were just missing it and you kept having misunderstandings?
Yes, God.
Yes,
Okay, how did you get through that season? Share with the people of God.
So the root is fear and pride. The root is you're fearful because the devil makes you believe like, oh, they're gonna probably ignore what you're saying, or they're not gonna take what you're saying seriously, or what you're saying is not important, so your spouse doesn't care. The other thing is pride, because once you're in that space, you start to believe the lies, and then you go into, well, I'm not gonna say anything because they should know better, or just giving it, and from there it goes into attitudes, and it builds on from there, where we've had situations we just do not come in agreement sometimes. And in those times, because we're both very strong individuals, in that time, we kind of just say what we say, and then we walk away for a second, because we know when we're not supposed to be speaking after a certain amount. We know, like, okay, if I say this, I probably shouldn't say that. Then we walk away, we let it, chill for a second, then we come back, and I say, well, honey, I think we need to talk about it. I think let's deal with what just happened. My intentions were not to offend you. First, you have to address what you did not mean to do.
All right.
From there, you go into dissecting, this is really what I meant to say. And from there, the person feels understood.
And
That's
listen to.
listen to. That's the first thing you want to do. Make sure the person feels understood and listened to. Make sure you're listening to what they're saying, because you can feel like you're right, up, left, whatever you want to feel. But it doesn't mean that that person feels that way. It doesn't make their feelings less valid. Their feelings matter. And that's how you're supposed to treat them. If they matter to you, then whatever they feel, think, should matter. And that is what causes communication to be able to flow better.
I would say the other thing too, and this sometimes can be very, very difficult, but very, very powerful. Some things aren't meant to be fought with words. Some things are meant to be fought in the spirit. And so sometimes it's better, rather than opening your mouth, sometimes it's better to shut up. Not because you don't want your wife to go off on you, or you don't want to listen to that. No, sometimes it's better to keep quiet and take it before the Lord and pray.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of times in both of our cases where, and it's separate situations, where we would pray and God would deal with the other person about what was going on. And I would say, the Lord told me and you're feeling And you want to see a deer in headlights, go pray for your spouse. I'd be like, the Lord told you that? Yeah, I experienced the same thing. But it's the best way to put ice water on a blazing fire.
Yeah.
It's okay. He humbled himself enough. He might be the head of the house, but he put the shirt to the earth, went to the Lord, and sought his face. Because the Lord will very quickly, and the Lord don't always yell at you or do all that type of stuff. The Lord will just let you know, like, this is how she's feeling. She's feeling misunderstood, or she's feeling like you're yelling at her, or she's feeling like, you're not listening. And the Lord would talk to me like that. In the same way, he would talk to her too. But it's a lot harder for God to talk to you if you run in your mouth.
That's right.
If you just, God's like, okay, well, when you keep quiet and you feel like listening to the truth, then come on. But in the meantime, I'm going to take care of some other children that really are seeking my face. And so sometimes you just have to learn to be still. It's okay. It doesn't mean you've lost the battle. Or in fact, sometimes it don't have to be right all the time. It's okay. Like, it's really, really, really okay. So, I think that the thing that we learned the most about the communication thing, Ida is a lot better at communicating honestly, truly, than I am. I'll be the one to be like, whatever, I'll be done with it. Whereas Ida will be like, no, we really need to deal with this, because if we don't, it's going to come up later.
I love it. So, understanding your spouse emotionally is very important in a relationship. And it seems as though that when you don't understand it, you can go to God. And so I want to say to those of you who are watching today, amen, that if you're thinking something, if something is going on in your marriage that's brewing up, that's bringing a great divide between you and your spouse, that the most important thing to do is to talk to the Lord. Wouldn't you agree?
Marriage
to talk to the Lord and talk to if you can talk to your spouse, talk to your spouse, not talk at your spouse, but talk to your spouse. And we're talking about adult to adult, not adult to child. So we want to take some questions now. We have we have is 8:51, amen, and we want those of you who are on right now, we pray in the testimony. Hallelujah. We want you to give some questions. Those of you who may have, amen, some things you want to comment on, or some things that you want to know, amen. Just come on, put those questions out there right now. Because I want you, before we close out, we're going to wait on the questions, amen. But before you close out, I want to say for the singles, before you got married, were you looking, did you ask God, were you looking for a spouse? Man of God.
Yes, absolutely. I did that. Yes.
Yes, he was.
Whatever. No one asked you. I very much was. I had been believing for a long time. In fact, I had already sort of sought out a particular woman, which the Lord did allow me to seek out. But of course, the devil sometimes getting stuff and it went south. So I very earnestly for 3 years, without being in any relationship, I'm gonna say that again. I wasn't not in not one relationship for a period of 3 years. Don't mean that I wasn't trying, but I had asked God to keep me safe, and so thus I didn't have no one female interested in the prophet. But I did ask. I'm being really honest. So I did ask God, and Ida even knew that when we got together, because I had told her about what I was believing for, right? The little cute blonde girl. But Ida, and she was like, nah. Trying to get through a barrier. Try and get through a barrier of somebody that says, I don't want to be married, especially when they're confident in who they are and they love God. Good luck. Like, it had to have been Jesus for real.
Yeah, I was not looking. I could care less. I was, at that point, I kind of was interested for a little bit. I was like, okay, well, if you want me to be married, sure, why not? But then I got to that space of like, I feel so good being by myself. I love you, God. I'll serve you. This is what we'll do. I'm cool with this. I'm alone. This is wonderful. And then all of a sudden, he was like, no, I want you to be married. I have something else for you. And it took me a while to understand that and to really grasp that he wanted me to be married. I actually did not accept it. It was like a forceful acceptance, because he was more of like, this is what I have for you, and you need to understand why.
We have a couple questions here. Amen. Blessings, amen to you. Ida, when did you realize that you were delivered from your past trauma?
Honestly, it's a process. I can say that I'm delivered from the root. And the root is the way God showed it to me was the enemy came after me the moment I came out of the womb. Because he knew that I had destiny, he knew I had purpose, and he knew that the way that he could come is through infiltrating perversion. And he knew that the way that he could come after my destiny was to come and interfere to the point where I was going to marry a woman before I was with Blaine. I was in a full-blown out relationship with a woman, going to get married, have a whole relationship, moving, the whole deal. But when, honestly, I knew, the moment I started to walk with God, I loved him so much that I just knew that I wanted everything that he had for me. I did not want to be dirty. I didn't want to be tainted. I didn't want nothing to be impure. I didn't want none of it inside of me. And so in that moment, I went to the girl, and we were both in church, and I said, is our relationship affecting your relationship with God? And the moment she said yes, I knew it was over. That moment, from that day, I knew I wanted to be delivered. I knew that I wanted to have everything inside of me be just God. And from that moment, it was a process of literally going through deliverance every night, going down on my knees, praying, asking God to deliver me, to heal me, crying out. Literally, people lived upstairs hearing me crying out for God to cleanse everything and to remove even the impure thoughts that I would have, the dreams, the perverse dreams that would come and attack me every night, and showing me that I could be seduced by a woman again, and over and over again. And it was a process of me and my love for God that really helped me through my deliverance and really brought me to a place of knowing that I was whole. And even when we got married, I had to go through another deliverance because now I had a man in my life. I didn't really have a father figure. I had him, but it wasn't really there. But I had to learn from my father's perspective. My father, God, showed me what it would look like for a man to be in my space. And what he had for me was not someone that was going to hurt me. He was not going to have someone that was going to rape me or, do all these things. And so I had to change my perspective on a man and at the same time be married. And from there, I had to understand my husband is not my enemy. God would not do that to me. But my husband is my partner for life. And God brought someone that was going to enhance my purpose, because I still had purpose inside of me, whether he was here or not. I was born with purpose. And
Yes.
so knowing this, I knew that I needed to become everything that he called me to be. And that just requires me being willing and being open for deliverance. I'm always ready for deliverance. If I got an attitude one week, God deliver me from whatever is giving me an attitude. Deliver me. If I got a headache, God deliver me from that. I'm always open for deliverance because we have to desire deliverance. We can't be pure if we're going to keep everything else in our space. If we want to remain pure, then we always have to be open for deliverance. It don't matter how anointed you are. It doesn't matter if you're an apostle, a prophet, a teacher.
Right.
Deliverance is the portion of his children.
I was just going to add that it's important to know what Ade said, that it was and is a process. For some, that deliverance or that healing comes sort of overnight, and for some it doesn't. God takes you through a process, and that process isn't always just for you. Maybe it's for your spouse too. Because I learned some things by watching my wife, struggle. It was a struggle for her, and I learned something.
Awesome. It'll bring more compassion as you seek to your heart. It cause you to have more compassion towards her and people who have gone through the same thing.
Yes, it does. It does, and did bring more compassion to me. But I also have a very different view on my marriage with my wife than a lot of men do. So for me, I looked at Ade as a vessel of God first. Before she's my wife, she's first created by God. She was first God's daughter.
Yeah.
And so for me, it brought compassion, because anybody that knows me knows that I want God's people to be the fullness of who they've been called to be. And so I saw this hindrance part where I knew God wanted to bless her with more internally, as far as an emotional perspective, and she was struggling to get there because of what she was dealing with.
You know what? You brought out something. You said his love. And that's an intricate part of Love on Fire. Is Love on Fire was birthed out of the love that I have for God. And that love brought me out of addiction. It brought me out of perversion. It brought me out of murder. You see, that love for God made me walk away and say, I don't want to deal with none of that, because this love that I have, that I discovered in God, it trumps everything.
Yes.
I mean, I've been high off a lot of different things, but it's nothing like the Holy Ghost, which is a perpetual high. So that kind of love, that agape love, it brings a marriage into marital bliss. It causes problems to be minute, because the enemy wants to want minor things to become major in our lives. But when we allow the love of the Father, my God, to embolden us, yes, He'll put a check down on those demons that come to ride us. I don't care how ancient they are. I don't care if they're time released. I don't even care if it's witchcraft. The love of the Father can break the chain. It destroys, it dismantles anything that may be locking up your marriage. I come to tell you tonight that your marriage is going to be free. I want to answer Donna Fomer. She said, how to move past anger and unforgiveness when your spouse continues hurtful behavior.
I think Ade is a good one to answer this one.
The answer is, if you don't forgive them, then God won't forgive you. It's as simple as that. If you know that you needed forgiveness when you were in the wrong, then you can forgive your spouse when they're in the wrong. It requires compassion, and it requires for you to understand that you not forgiving them is selfish, because God was selfless enough to forgive you out of everything that you did in your past, everything that you did against him, to curse him, to whatever you did, because being in sin is cursing God. You are a vessel of God. So you have to understand that if you do not forgive your spouse, you're just hurting yourself. You're not really hurting them anymore. You're hurting yourself, because now unforgiveness is not your portion. It won't be your portion anymore because you're not forgiving your spouse. So moving past anger requires for you to submit under God first to be able to receive the full revelation on why you have to forgive them. Because then God can show you the roots of why they're angry.
Yes.
Of why are they acting like this? Why are they lashing out? Show me, God, the roots so that I can know how to pray for my spouse. Show me the roots so that I can know what I have to dig into to bring that thing out. And God will show you. He can tell you, just cook him this for today. Just the simplest instructions, and it'll bring a healing into the marriage. God will say, wear this today. It's just a simple thing. I think people overthink it and make it this big process when it's really simple. If God can forgive you for your mess, then you can forgive your spouse for their mess.
My God, the time has drawn to an end. I'm telling you, this was good. Hallelujah. You needed this, Deacon Williams. He said, I needed this today. Thank you for sharing this. Amen. To God be the glory. This is so awesome. We got the whole week. We have the whole week to go. We're going to have other couples on this week on Love Fire. I'm telling you, we're going from the rooter to the tutor. And I thank you, Lord God, hallelujah, for the Irvings. Amen. I want you all to close out in prayer to bless the marriages. Amen. If you're sensing something, go ahead and let God use you in our closing.
Amen. I definitely, when you were other people come on to pray, God was just showing me how in this time, even though everything is chaotic, there is an urgency for us to acknowledge God's love. There is an emergency for us to acknowledge who God is as love, as Abba. We have relied on each other for too long. We have relied on the body instead of relying on the source. And so even in your marriage, I speak life into your marriage. I speak hope into your marriage. God. I speak in every area of your hearts, the trauma, whatever you're struggling, even for the singles, the ones that are dating, I speak to those areas and I encourage you to really seek after God's love. Even wherever you are, seek into that love that can cause things inside of you to shift. Seek into those things that will cause inside of you to not want to be there anymore. If you're losing hope over your spouse, if you're feeling like you gotta give up, you don't want to do this anymore, I'm walking away, I need you to look at God and realize that He did not give up on you. He did not give up on you. Do not give up on your spouse. We're humans. We're humans and we make mistakes. We're going to fall. We're going to fall short of everything. But there is hope with it. There is hope in God. So when you put God and you say, God, show me the root. Expose those things that are causing this marriage to fail. What am I doing wrong? Acknowledge your mistakes as well. Acknowledge that you may or may not be doing something wrong and you don't even notice it. Acknowledge that you may be wrong this time. Take that time to really, examine the whole body, examine your whole marriage. And even on tonight, I encourage y'all to start writing your spouse's name and start writing those areas that are bothering you, those areas that are causing your marriage to struggling. Write those things down, and you have to learn how to intercede for your spouse. If you are going to be lazy and not do anything for your spouse, then that is what's failing. That's what you're doing wrong. That's what you're doing wrong. As your spouse is struggling, as your spouse is angry, as your spouse is feeling worried because you guys are financially unstable, you have to understand as a wife, the husband carries the household. You have to be compassionate whether the spouse is struggling and stressed because they feel like they're not providing enough. You have to be compassionate. And I encourage you to really seek into this part within yourself that is causing you to be so bitter. That is causing you to really be so bitter that you are holding so much against your spouse. Even as a man, what are you holding against your wife? Why do you feel like your wife is not doing enough? Let's deal with all these roots.
Good. Even I hope that we answered your question, Donna, about even the continuous hurt to be continually hurt. And I know that sometime I was married for 20 years, so I understand that. And sometimes God is coming for that thing. He uses a situation. The enemy wants to use it as a device to destroy you. But you have to change your paradigm and say, I'm going to look at this situation. I'm going to allow you to heal me of this thing that has been so hurting, that this thing that is seemingly it won't heal. Seemingly there's still a wound. God, I'm going to allow you to go there. I want you to do surgery on me. I'm not going to get up. I'm talking from experience. And God, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to get up until you deal with this area of pain in my life. I got to get to a place where it just doesn't matter anymore. And then whatever you want to do in this relationship, I am mentally, I am emotionally, I am spiritually, physically, and financially prepared for the shift. Sometimes we don't go to God because we don't want the answer. We don't want to deal with the answer of what he might say. And that may not be your case, but I want to give you truth to those who are continuously being hurt, I can say to when God do whatever he does, make sure you allow him to heal you so you're ready for whatever he does. Amen. You want to say something?
Amen. You know, I actually just, I don't know if how you make me come after that. I just feel from a man's perspective, I want to encourage some of you married men and some of you young men that are planning to get married, okay? Now, I need y'all to hear me and hear me good. Because unfortunately, we don't get taught this. So God had to teach me through some other unfortunate circumstances that I had to watch that grieved me, okay? And this is what I need y'all to know. This is for you men, okay? Now, for you woman of God that are married, if your husband is watching with you, if this is an area that you've been believing God for, this is not your opportunity to say, amen. Keep your mouth shut, okay? Let God deal with it. This is what I need y'all to know. Men of God, if you really want the wife that God has called you to have, I need you to give your wife the opportunity to become the fullness of what God has called her to be. So, if you are called to ministry, and I'm using this as an example because there's many of you that are watching that are in ministry or are business owners, okay? If you are in ministry as a man of God, allow the Lord to put your wife in a position of prominence without you being jealous and without you having to pull her back. Like, nah, the Lord called me to the front, or the Lord called me to do X, Y, and Z. Allow your wife to be the leader that God called her to be. It doesn't take away from who you are. But if you really want to be a fabulous leader or an exemplary leader in your household, allow God to push your wife forward while you sit back for a moment and say, I'm going to let you shine, wife. I'm going to let you become who you're called to be. I'm going to push you even when you feel like I shouldn't be pushing you. There was times with my wife, because of society or because of things that she'd been taught, that the Lord had to use me to undo, and it was not fun. But he embraced on my heart to push my wife to become the fullness of who she's called to be. I have no issue with the fact that God, the Creator, called my wife to be apostle, and he called me to carry the mantle of a prophet. It made no difference because she called apostle. That is who she's called to be. I am called to be prophet. I do my job well. She's going to do her job well. If I stand in the gap with her and push her to become who she's called to be. It's not newsflash. It's not just about you. It's not just about your business. It's not just about your money. It's not just about you getting the fame and glory. She is with you. She's your helpmate. So help her become what God called her to be. It is okay. You do not have to abstain her.
That is good. Teamwork.
It's teamwork. I'm going to leave you all with this. The Lord pushed me to push my wife to start her business. My wife came into our marriage with a husband that already owned several businesses and was already in ministry. So many a times he would approach me and let me know, look at her. She's struggling a little bit here because she's trying to figure out where she fits in.
Come on.
Am I just a mother? Am I just a wife? Is that it, God? Is that all I've been called to do? No. Some of your wives, if you give them the opportunity, if you quit being so selfish and controlling, you would soon see that actually if you step back and let them be who God called them to be, man, you will have a totally different woman right next to you at night. You will have a totally different woman walking into your house because she's going to have another level of fulfillment in her life, because just like God created you with the uniqueness, the cool things and some of the bad things maybe that you have, because of things you've gone through, your uniqueness, she has uniqueness too, and she needs you. She needs you to walk with her and stand with her so that she can become the fullness of who she's called to be. When the world tells or the society tells her, no, you can't do that, or it ain't right for you to do that. Listen, there was many times in my household where I said, look, this is my house, and what I say goes. I say you're going to become what God called you to be, because I don't care what nobody else said.
Come on now. I love the support. We're getting ready to close. The hour has drawn to an end. And we tomorrow, amen, we'll be here tomorrow. Amen. We're going to have the Brantleys with us on tomorrow. We are excited. Amen. We thank God for you. Amen. The Irvings, amen, for coming on tonight. Once again, I want to share with you our Love on Fire book. Amen. We're going to be bringing up even more books. Amen. On love and intimacy as well. I'm Dr. Sharice Lewis. God bless you. We love you. We appreciate your tuning in. Remember, stay lit for Jesus. Blaze up in your marriage. Blaze up in your relationship with God. And blaze up in your relationship with others. God bless you. We'll see you at midnight for midnight prayer. It's a love thing. God bless.